27.
Hold it
Okay.
side.
Yeah.
805. No repeats. Okay.
Did you already switch it though? Leave it because I didn't want it to be distributed. If you've already switched it, don't go back. Yeah, I don't want it to be distributed. So that's perfect. Okay. Yeah, let's just do that.
Second violin goes, ha ha. I can play in third position too.
Good.
I don't know. It's 6:28.
Everything.
What did they say?
6:28.
And if we have to quit.
Thank you for listening.
We're stopping for an announcement.
Right now.
No, I'm asking.
Yes, at 6:30 they're supposed to be present.
Okay. Okay.
Everything?
We're gonna stop.
No.
Oh, we're gonna do everything.
We should stop until they come out.
Okay. No repeats. No repeats.
Okay, second ending.
Yeah, second ending.
Got it.
32. Let them come on. Yeah. Yeah, we do. Yeah. What? Okay. Sure. Sounds good to me. All right. Oh, 12 bars. Yeah. Oh.
Good evening.
Good evening.
If everyone will go ahead and take their seats, please. I'm Chris Ambergy, Chair of the Salvation Army Advisory Board. Whether you are here in this room or joining us virtually, we thank you for being a part of this special occasion to spotlight the mission of the Salvation Army. Doing the most good is the Salvation Army's pledge to those it serves and to those who are stakeholders in its mission. A little later this evening, you will encounter the stories of those whose lives have been dramatically changed because of the Army's determined pursuit of this pledge. At this time, I'm pleased to introduce our Mistress of Ceremonies for this evening. You will recognize her as an award-winning journalist who anchors the evening news on Fox 23. She is also an active member of the Tulsa Salvation Army Women's Auxiliary. Please join me in welcoming Shay Razi.
All right, thanks so much, Chris. Good evening, everyone. It's so good to see all of you and in person. How about a round of applause for all the effort put in place so that we could come together in person tonight for this special occasion. And they've decorated so beautifully, spaced the tables out, limited the number of people at each table. And it's just such an honor to be here tonight after the year all of us have had. And it's an honor for me to host for the first time the 28th Annual William Booth Society Dinner. As a member of the Salvation Army Women's Auxiliary for the last 6 years, I have loved learning so much more about the Salvation Army through an amazing group of women. We call ourselves the Army Behind the Army, and it's so much fun to get together in friendship and fellowship and volunteer so many hours to support the different programs. The Center of Hope Homeless Shelter, the Boys and Girls Club with their athletic equipment or the technology that they need. And of course, supporting the men at the Adult Rehabilitation Center. That is such an incredible program as well. And of course, our favorite is the Angel Tree program, providing Christmas for thousands of kids in our community. And we know so many of you take part in that as well, or support the efforts, whether it's through your financial donations, toy donations, or your volunteer hours. So thank you all so much for your support. I want to give all of you a round of applause too for being here and for all of your support tonight. "192 years ago, William Booth, the founder of the Salvation Army, was born. Booth was a dynamic individual, consumed by a passion to reach those in spiritual darkness with God's love and to alleviate human suffering. Tonight, we honor the vision and legacy of William Booth by celebrating those people and programs which daily influence the lives of individuals and families who are often overlooked and underserved, yet highly represented in our community. But first, I'm pleased to introduce Tulsa area commanders for the Salvation Army, Majors Mark and Jan Harwell.
Good evening. Please join us in prayer. Faithful and loving God, we gather here this evening to share in the blessings of your goodness.
We thank you for the gifts of life, family, freedom, friends, and community. We know that you are the source of these gifts, and we do not take them for granted.
We thank you that while we continue to know the effects of one of the worst crises our community and world has ever faced, your grace is allowing us to emerge from this period of great challenge and hardship to experience healing, restoration, and new abundance. God, our comforter, please continue to grant your peace and encouragement to those who have experienced the deepest losses.
We thank you this evening for your calling upon the lives of William and Catherine Booth and their obedience to raise up an army of salvation who would bring your gospel and compassion to a hurting world.
Please continue to bless the work of the Salvation Army in our community, and may those it serves continue to experience the hope, new direction, and change they seek.
We also thank you for leading us, those who are gathered in this ballroom, and those who are present this evening through technology, to the discovery that life finds its fullest meaning when it is offered in service to others.
Thank you for the dynamic example of personal transformation modeled by our speaker this evening. Bless him and inspire us as he shares.
And now please bless the food which has been offered to nourish us, our fellowship around these tables, and may all that transpires this evening be to your glory and for the service of others. For we make our prayer in the name of the one who is our ultimate pattern of service and selflessness, even Jesus Christ. Amen.
Hallelujah.
Well, that would have been perfect. Sorry. Golly. One. What's up, F sharp? Okay. I was possessed. You gonna do a little Bach jig? Jig?
Oh, you want to do something else? You want to do crazy little thing? Let's do crazy little thing.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So swing the eighth notes. And is there a... There's no roadmap.
No,
Okay. All right. Okay. That's great. They love Queen. What are we doing? Are we going?
Do you want to do any of we can do that. Hooray.
Hooray? Hooray?
Sure.
Yeah. Both little repeats. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you want to repeat?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, there's two. Got it.
There's all two of them?
All two.
I have a little pickup.
Okay, I got it.
Okay. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1.
How sweet it is
Love
to
it.
be up.
That's a good one.
There's a DC Alcoda.
Okay.
So let's see, DC goes back
D.
to A,
And then
and then you finish 16 and jump to Dakota.
got it.
Okay, got it. Moderate swing.
Modern.
Moderate.
Oh, this is the hard one.
makes me want to like.
All right.
Sure.
Red now.
And I guess we do all three peaks, and then we pick the top of the back to the laser.
Yep.
Or we don't pick it. And we end at the end of the hot one.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah. Okay. I have a request for Titanic. Do we have Titanic?
No.
Okay, sorry, we don't have Titanic. Okay. The Bob Dylan?
One more? Yeah.
We have.
My love?
Sure.
Okay.
All right.
I know what this sounds like. All right, let's go. Let's go.
Oh. We're done. Sorry, my gig just ended, but we'll see you later. Bye. Thank you for joining. That was fun.
Our program, sorry, hold on.
Everybody?
Our program will continue in 5 minutes.
pocket, put it in my pocket, in my back pocket, put it in my pocket, in my pocket, in my back pocket. Oh, oh, oh. And I put it in my pocket, put it in my pocket, in my back pocket, put it in my pocket, in my pocket, in my back pocket, and I'll read it when I'm alone. Do you like me? Circle yes or no on this piece of paper, 'cause I really, really need to know. Are you gonna be my fifth grade bee? Hand it back after second hour, then I will know if you're gonna be my special flower. Ooh, girl, 'cause I need to know. I will put it in my pocket, put it in my pocket, in my back pocket, put it in my pocket, in my pocket, in my back pocket. Oh, oh, oh. And I put it in my pocket, put it in my pocket, in my back pocket, put it in my pocket, in my pocket, in my back pocket, and I'll read it when I'm alone. When you kissed me on the playground, I lost my breath, I had to lay down and assess what I had seen. Then I had to write the words out, 'cause you took them out of my mouth. But it's hard for me to read out loud. Oh, gee. Oh, gosh. I know that it's taken me all this time to say, girl, I'm slow. So it's taken me all this time to say, girl, tiptoe. And I want to acknowledge my mistake, girl. Oh, and I hope that you know it's not too late, girl. I know that it's taken me all this time to say, girl, I'm slow. So it's taken me all this time to say, girl, tiptoe. And I want to acknowledge my mistake, girl. Oh, and I hope that you know it's not too late.
Hello again, everyone.
It's a sums.
How's everyone enjoying their appetizers and their salad and the company around you? And again, just being here in person is so nice. Hey, let's give a round of applause for our our string quartet. I say four string, but it's quartet. So it's our quartet, our string quartet. They were amazing. We were talking about they went from classical to, funky jams, and we didn't know that you could do that with the string quartet. So we appreciated that. And that was a lot of fun to listen to them. Well, in the decades to come, we will all share with younger generations the difficult and challenging experiences through which we've journeyed in 2020. Remember the fights over toilet paper at the grocery store? It's still one of the craziest things. And then, of course, the arguments over masks that have happened around the country. It's amazing what all of us have been through. In fact, I was just talking to our guest speaker, Chris Gardner, tonight, and he was saying this is the first time he's been out of his house in the first event he's done in over a year. How many others are in that same situation? Raise your hand if this is your first event out. Yes. And it's so good to see you. We're so glad that you came out to join us for this special night tonight. So thank you. We are living what will eventually be future generations' history lessons. It'll go down in the history books. So I'd like to read something to you that I think we can all relate to. Quote, "We were called upon to aid the sufferers. This terrible epidemic was a great strain upon all resources. The epidemic necessitated quick action, so there was no time to wait for a thorough organization of all the forces. We just had to begin at once. Homeless shelters became makeshift hospitals, and new cleanliness protocols were enforced. The Salvation Army had always believed that cleanliness is next to godliness, but a new emphasis was placed on disinfecting the crowded city shelters. Well, this may sound like our 2020 experience. This was pulled from a story in the Salvation Army's magazine War Cry from November 16, 1918, during the Spanish flu epidemic turned pandemic. The Salvation Army has been responding to disasters, epidemics, pandemics, disease, homelessness, and hunger since 1865. Over the past 13 months, the Salvation Army continued the rich heritage of response by providing so much care, support, food, and faith to those affected by COVID-19.
Sustaining the Salvation Army's mission in the Tulsa area has really required a very strong collaborative effort. None of us had the capacity to be able to social distance the clients that we serve in our shelters. And we're so grateful just to the incredible team of people that came together to be able to meet what was really a shared need by our community.
It was in the early going of the pandemic, and we recognized that we needed to do a lot to make sure that homeless Tulsans in particular had the services that they needed and could access them, but could access them in a safe way. The Salvation Army stepped up and worked with us at the City of Tulsa to create a new day shelter that allowed 70 men in our community to have a safe place to go.
And we've been so blessed by the number of folks who've come alongside us and given so generously, knowing that the need is great.
Tulsa Area United Way is so grateful for our partner at Salvation Army. They took those early COVID relief funds and were able to provide 1,746 households with utility assistance, because what we know is that many people are needing help for the first time in the pandemic. And these are people that have been donors to the United Way or the Salvation Army for years and are finding themselves in a hard place. So we're helping our neighbors in that way.
The Salvation Army's consistent mission is to serve those most vulnerable. And we found ourselves faced with opportunity to be able to serve those who are most essential. And we're so glad that we've been able to do that, to support these families so that they can be on the front lines of this crisis and not have to worry that their children are in a place of safety. They're with people who are caring, who are good role models for them, and they're keeping their learning also going while schools are out. So we've been very fortunate to be able to meet a critical need for those who are serving us in the community.
When they didn't go to school in the fall, we found ourselves in a position that we needed to be open, 11 hours a day, basically, to be the school for the kids, to provide that from 7 to 3, that virtual learning period. And there's no way we could have done that if we didn't have access to the CARES dollars that came through the Community Hope Center program through DHS. We're very grateful that we've been able to be there for our families and to provide over 39,000 hours of virtual learning. And we're grateful that we had the ability to be able to do that. The one stable thing in the middle of all this has been this Maybe Red Shield Club being a constant place for kids and their families to come without wavering.
I just want to say thank you, Salvation Army. You help others. You help us unite people and resources to improve lives, strengthen the community as you do the most good. We're very grateful for your ability to be a strong partner after 95 years and to pivot with us to meet the needs of the pandemic. Thank you for living united.
The Salvation Army throughout this pandemic has continually stepped up to work with us at the City of Tulsa to protect those in need, and that's nothing new. That is something that the Salvation Army has always done throughout your history here in our city. And so again, on behalf of a grateful community, I just want to say thank you so much.
It's a great sense of reward to be an ambassador for the community. So those who are giving generously to the Salvation Army to support our work, we see ourselves as stewards of their generosity, of their compassion, and it's been very rewarding to be able to share God's love with those who are particularly in need of it right now, and for us to encourage them that God is always planning for us for a brighter and more hopeful future.
Incredible work. I remember reporting on Fox 23 News when the Salvation Army, announced that they would be open for kids to be able to go there to do their virtual school so their parents could still go to work. I think so many parents in Tulsa just breathed a huge sigh of relief because some of them, I'm sure were freaking out because they still had to be at work while the kids were learning at school, and the kids, especially the younger ones, how are they going to be on a computer all day? We want supervision. We also need some help, in case the kids have questions since they're not right there with the teachers. And so truly, the Salvation Army and everyone at the Boys and Girls Clubs were just true angels to so many families in the community during the pandemic. And tonight we want to acknowledge two groups of frontline Salvation Army team members who showed incredible resilience in sustaining the organization's mission of serving others throughout this pandemic. Joining us tonight are dedicated team members from the Army's Center of Hope in downtown Tulsa, as well as team members from the Army's 5 area Boys and Girls Clubs. So as they stand, would you please show them your appreciation? We see you. We see you. We see you and we thank you. Reflecting on the service of Salvation Army workers during the 1918 Spanish flu epidemic, worldwide leader of the Army, General Evangeline Booth, stated, quote, "I question if any of us at this time can sufficiently measure our duly appreciate the far-reaching importance." Let me start that over. I'm not doing it justice. So I question if any of us at this time can sufficiently measure or duly appreciate the far-reaching importance of benefits which this devotion, faithfulness, sacrifice, and service of our splendid men and women who served with equal devotion and sacrifice brought to the Army. I believe we can say the same of our 2020 staff and volunteers. As a member of the Tulsa Salvation Army Women's Auxiliary, I understand the necessity of having enthusiastic and steadfast volunteers to further the mission. Often called the Army behind the Army, individual men and women dedicate time, talent, and treasure to ensure those in need are best served. Here's Major Mark Harwell to honor one of those volunteer heroines.
Truly, one of the greatest privileges a Salvation Army officer has is to honor caliber individuals who have given exemplary service and support for the organization's mission. And in particular, the presentation of the Salvation Army's highest civic honor, the William Booth Award, named for its founder, is a deeply meaningful occasion. Some officers will retire from active service, having never had the experience that we're going to share this evening. This year's William Booth Award recipient really needs no introduction. That's because she has been engaged in the work of a number of great causes and worthwhile projects in our community for many years. In her early adult life, our recipient demonstrated her concern for the needs of others through nursing instructing others in its practice at one time. However, throughout her life, she has consistently answered the call to serve, to lead, to give, to advocate, and so much more with organizations such as the American Heart Association, the Child Abuse Network, and Family and Children's Services. As a sustaining member of the Junior League of Tulsa, she has supported developing the potential of women to be engaged in improving their community through action and volunteerism. However, our honoree is probably best known as an ardent champion for the arts through her involvement and support of groups such as the Oklahoma Arts Institute, the Tulsa Philharmonic, and the Tulsa Ballet. Together with her husband, who has shared equally in her community service and philanthropy, she has received several prestigious awards, including the Governor's Arts Award, the Pinnacle Award from the Mayor's Commission on the Status of Women, and the National Philanthropy Day Outstanding Volunteer Award from the Association of Fundraising Professionals. Our honoree began her service with the Salvation Army as a member of its advisory board back in 2005. Underscoring her dedication to the Army's mission and strong aptitude for leadership, she served as board chair in 2010 and 2011, only 5 years into her service on the board. Recently, when reflecting on this season of service, she noted how then area commanders Majors Roy and Kathy Williams contributed to such a rewarding experience in her life. You know, we often see community leaders who, after completing significant service, take on lesser responsibilities or even move off the scene completely, but not with tonight's honoree. Instead of resting on her laurels, her level of engagement in the Army's mission has intensified. Since her service as board chair, she's fulfilled many other leadership roles. Tenured board members will recall her effective leadership of the Strategic Planning Committee a few years ago. Her leadership on that occasion saw the development of a strategic plan which remains a blueprint for the health and effective service of the organization today. Currently, she serves as chair of a special task force for program and capital development for the Army's North Tulsa Boys and Girls Club. No matter the role, tonight's honoree has served with excellence, compassion, insight, generosity, tenacity, and elegance. She truly understands that with influence and capacity comes a responsibility to affect change in the lives of others. She also embodies the profound truth found in the words of Evangeline Booth, daughter of the Army's founder, who said, "There is no reward equal to that of doing the most good to the most people in the most need." Participating in our gala this evening virtually through technology, would you please join me in recognizing the 2020 recipient of the William Booth Award, Billy Barnett.
Well, thank you very much. This was out of the blue. We didn't see this coming, that's for sure. I answered the phone one afternoon and it was Major, and I thought he wanted to talk about business, and actually he is very straightforward. He said, "No, this isn't about business. This is about something else." and let me know that we were the recipients this year of this wonderful award. And so I was very taken back, very honored, very humbled, and I am so appreciative of this award. And you know, as a participant in this dinner for many years, I have seen people receive this award, and it's much more spontaneous than this filming. But then this has been kind of a different year too. So, but I want to just say thank you, and we are so very, very grateful of our service to the Salvation Army, and this is such a nice award to be given. We got involved with the Salvation Army in 2005. We were asked to chair the William Booth Dinner, and we accepted, and we did. We actually learned a lot about the Salvation Army that year. We had no idea the Boys and Girls Club in this community was connected. And so it was a learning experience as well as raising money for us. And so after the dinner, they asked if one of us would like to be a board member. And as I recall, I think Howard was a bit busy and I didn't have as much on my plate, so I said yes, and the rest is history. So that's kind of how we got involved with the Army. And then Howard has a little tidbit of interest I think he wants to share.
Well, I was the last president of the Tulsa Tribune when we closed that paper in 1992. And some of you may remember the Neediest Family Program. That was started with the Salvation Army and the Tulsa Tribune back in 1928. And so we did that for 84 years. And then, interestingly enough, and thankfully enough, the Tulsa World took it over, and it is still running. And so we are very happy that is. We also were lucky enough to set up an endowment that continues to provide money for the Neediest Family Program. And it's been was a wonderful partnership for 84 years.
I have enjoyed my board meetings and tenure, and it's a wonderful organization. And as some of you may know, Howard and I serve on several boards, but there's something special about the Salvation Army. And when you leave a meeting or you leave a committee assignment, it just makes you feel good. It really does. So again, thank you very much for the award. It is most appreciated. And tonight, if we haven't already done the live ask, dig a little deeper in your pockets tonight. This organization does a great job with the money that they're given. So I like to say, and I love the tagline of the Salvation Army, doing the most good, and that they do. Thank you very much.
Yes, congratulations, Billy, on an award well deserved. Well, 2020 was a year of extra efforts. At the Center of Hope, they became experts in social distancing, gurus of meals on the go, and virtuosos of the art of disinfecting spaces. Yet the daily operations marched on. While managing new methods, they provided over 281,850 meals. Let's get up for that. To the 13,044 individuals served. Absolutely incredible work at the Center of Hope. The Center of Hope offers more than merely a bed to Tulsa's transient homeless population. They offer intensive personal case management to men, women, and families enrolled in programs such as Project Able and Pathway to Hope. These transitional programs provide hope and a safe place to make the journey back to self-sufficiency. Everyone's journey starts from a unique place, but ends with hope. And it ends with hope restored. This video is a story of one such family.
Me and my husband, we got into drugs. My husband got into gambling, and the last bit of money that we did have, he gambled it all away, and it really affected me.
I lost the job I was working at. Then we got in a car wreck, the car and totaled the car we had. The place we were staying at, we couldn't afford rent, and then we couldn't afford our bills, and basically it just threw us both on the streets. So we ended up homeless. The area where we were living originally when we went homeless was a bad area, really bad. Just, sometimes at night you can hear gunshots, and people on some occasions get murdered over there too. Throughout the course of that time, she ended up pregnant, and Trent is born.
A month later, after Trent was born, they found us. So the cops were there, so was DHS, and then they wanted to make sure that he was okay. So they had an ambulance waiting for us, and they said that they couldn't check him out there, so they tricked us of going to St. Francis, and we stayed there about 5 hours, and then they let us know that we couldn't leave with Trent. So we went to court, we talked to the judge, and that's when we met our caseworker, Laura, and she brought us to the shelter home. She brought us to the Salvation Army, and that's where we met Kelly.
When they first came to us, they were together physically, but when it came to the emotional aspect of marriage and the mental, spiritual aspects of marriage, they weren't quite there. But being homeless for a year and a half can really take its toll on a family, and so they were broken.
My relationship with my husband, it was a very, very rocky, and it was to the point that there was so much tension and so much frustration and so much hurt that I was going to explode.
One of our life skills classes is called the resolution. And that's when I saw a really significant change with the couple, where Aaron was learning his role as a husband, and also Pam was learning her role as a wife and a mother. Although they were working individually on those things, they started coming together as a couple again. Aaron went to welding school, did a phenomenal job, found a job right off the bat. They're getting money put back, getting those fines, court cost fees paid off. They're just achieving all of their goals.
We went to court and we showed DHS that we had an apartment and we had everything that Trent needed. And DHS people talked to the judge and said, we want you guys to close down the case. They did everything that they had to do, and they're a success story. And once they said that and the judge said yes, I cried, and I grabbed them and I hugged them, and I was like, thank you so much. I get to be a wife, I get to be a mom, I get to see my kid grow up. You don't get second chances to fix what got broken. You don't. And when you do, you have to take it in full force.
For this family to have come from living in a tent out in Broken Arrow to working for a company that pays really well, getting good benefits. This is the first time this family's had insurance benefits that didn't come from the state. For those who are supporting the Pathway of Hope program, they would be part of that journey as well, to watch these families heal themselves and heal each other and pay that forward.
It gives hope for not just today, but for the future, so that the cycle of homelessness does not continue, but that it is actually broken.
I had like this much hope. And the more my hope grew, more of my faith grew.
We're extremely appreciative of everything that the Salvation Army has done for us, because a lot of this stuff we really couldn't have done without the Salvation Army and the Pathway Hope program.
The words thank you can't be enough for what Pathway of Hope program and for Kelly and for Don and everybody in the Salvation Army does for people. for people like us.
And that right there is a true example of the Center of Hope living up to its name. And I understand that Center of Hope video featuring the Scott family was actually produced for last year's gala that never happened. So we have a really exciting update for you. Over the last 13 months, Aaron and Pam, along with now toddler Trent, are soon to be graduates of our Pathway of Hope program. And I'm told the Scott family has successfully completed the program and they are moving into their own residence on May 1st. Woo! We're so excited for you guys. So let me introduce you to Mr. and Mrs. Aaron Scott. Please stand and give us a wave. Not sure where they are. There they are. Woo! Great job! Seriously, the two of you are such an inspiration. You've been through things most of us in this room could not even imagine ever being through. And you did it. And we're so proud of you and so happy for you guys that you are together as a family today and better off than you've ever been. Truly an inspiration. Well, please welcome back to the stage at this time Advisory Board Chair Chris Ambergy, joined by this year's William Booth Society Gala chairs John and Lee Reeves.
We believe in doing the most good. We believe in the mission to share Christ with the lost. We believe in meeting the needs of the disenfranchised, homeless, and hungry. We believe in introducing the possibilities of a bright future to youth in search of a place to belong. Because we believe, we stand here tonight and ask you to join us in our support of the mission of the Salvation Army. Without a doubt, this past year has been tragic for some, difficult for many, and troublesome for most all of us. Your past and future financial support of the many programs offered by the Salvation Army have provided hope in a time when hope may have been in short supply. This year's gala chairs, John and Lee Reeves, have been providing hope for over a decade as generous donors to the Salvation Army. John and Lee, thank you for stepping up to be our 2021 gala chairs. Perhaps you can share with us a few of the reasons that you have been long-term supporters of the Army.
Thanks, Chris. Although we've been donors to the Salvation Army for 12 years, Billy's statement on her video about not truly grasping the scope of what the Army does until serving as the chair of this gala really rings true with us. We were always pleased knowing that 87 cents of every dollar goes to programming and services. It's when we began to hear the personal stories of individuals like Pam and Aaron this evening, Scott, that our hearts were moved to join the Signature Sustainers. This donor group specifically supports the needs and services at the Center of Hope.
We want to encourage folks that it takes everyone to keep the mission moving forward. Similar to the iconic red kettles at Christmas, when every dime and dollar count, tonight it's the same principle. Any amount impacts a life. $25 can feed a child for a week at a Boys and Girls Club.
$250 can feed a family for a month at Center of Hope.
$2,500 can provide 3 months of shelter for an individual.
And $25,000 can provide a year of programming for a family at the Center of Hope.
We do have fabulous news for tonight. A very generous donor, Mrs. Evelyn Ninehouse, has pledged to match $50,000 of the contributions made tonight. Now, Mrs. Ninehouse wanted to be sure that we used her name so that all of you would know that this is a real challenge from a real person. But I have more good news. As of today, an anonymous donor has pledged an additional $25,000 in matching donations for the Live Ask.
As you carefully consider your contributions to tonight's efforts, please remember there is an individual life behind each story and picture. Please give generously.
For those in the room tonight, please look for the pledge cards and pins at your table. For those of us joining us via the live stream, open your swag boxes and locate the pledge card along with the self-addressed stamped envelope. Another way to give, if you have a credit card handy, you can text BOOTH to 918-228-5819. Or finally, you can visit www.salarmytulsa.org. We ask tonight that you would consider making an impact on the lives of those in need by partnering with the Salvation Army and doing the most good. For the next 90 seconds, please take the time to complete that pledge card in your hand or send that text or visit our website. Thank you. Thank you to all of our supporters for your life-changing contributions that will make a tremendous impact on our community. Now, a little bit of housekeeping. If someone at each table would please find the large red envelope and pass it around your table. Where you find those large red envelopes. As you pass it around, please place your completed pledge card into the envelope. Once the red envelope makes its way around the entire table, have someone hold it up, and our Salvation Army staff will be around to pick it up.
Thank you all so much who have filled out the cards already. Those of you still considering the amount you'd like to give, perhaps by texting or going online tonight, don't forget about that $75,000 match in contributions. Maybe that'll make you add a little extra zero to what you're thinking about tonight. Any amount you choose to give, though, we truly appreciate it. As Chris mentioned, and John and Lee, 87 cents of every dollar goes into programs. And that is something not every organization can say. The Salvation Army really has, I feel like, one of the highest rates of investments in your dollar. It goes so far to help those in our community. In just about 10 minutes, we will hear from Chris Gardner, our guest speaker tonight. For now, though, enjoy your dessert.
Ladies and gentlemen, our program will resume momentarily. Thank you.
I really hate to break up the party. I know everyone is so excited to be talking and meeting in person and catching up with friends you haven't seen in a long time, especially friends you may only see at these events when you get out and about in a community. And we are so grateful for all of you for spending your time with us tonight, and for those of you making it your first night out in over a year. Well, we are so excited to soon welcome our guest of honor this evening. So I just wanted to go ahead and start talking up here to have you guys start taking your seats, because I know so many people are so inspired by his message. I know he is someone who will give all of us hope. When his story landed in Hollywood and we saw Will Smith on the big screen living his story, it gave all of us hope. So tonight, we have the privilege of hearing from a man whose journey from being homeless to becoming a successful entrepreneur is truly inspiring. Chris Gardner is a New York Times best-selling author for his autobiography, The Pursuit of Happiness, which inspired the movie featuring actor Will Smith. Gardner's second book, Start Where You Are, was another bestseller published in 2009. And he's currently completing work on his newest book, Happiness 2.0, The Blueprint. In respect for tonight's speaker, please go ahead and silence your phones and refrain from videoing. Thank you so much. And at this time, please join me in welcoming to the stage Chris Gardner.
Please come.
Thank you.
Whew. Good evening. Come on, y'all got to do better than that now. Good evening. Ooh, man. Let me tell you something. First of all, young lady, I don't know where you got that information from about I'm completing work on my new book. That book was published last week. Ooh, man. No. Hey. She said that, and I'm saying to myself, oh my God. It's done. And just because you didn't know, you're going to get a free autographed copy. Okay? Good evening, Tulsa. No, come on, man. Y'all got to do better than that. Good evening, Tulsa. Thank you. Come on, man. Oh my God. Look, let me tell you something. Number one, no one is happier to be in this room tonight than me. I've been at home, pretty much sequestered in my little bubble for the last 14 months. This is the first time that I've worn pants that do not have an elastic band. Hey, okay? It's the first time I've worn a shirt with a collar on it. And right now, the thing that's giving me the most trouble are these shoes. I've worn nothing but flip-flops and cross trainers for 14 months. And now I'm wearing leather shoes and my feet are protesting. I am absolutely honored to be here this evening. And I personally know the Salvation Army very, very well. I was just sitting here and folks were telling me all the stories and history about the Salvation Army and the great work the Salvation Army has been doing now for 155 years. Apparently they did not know I used to eat at the Salvation Army. Okay, the Salvation Army, along with a number of other institutions in the San Francisco Bay Area, made all the difference in the world in my life and in the life of my child at a very, very critical time, as you all are doing right now. So on behalf of everyone who couldn't be here this evening, to say thank you to the Salvation Army, on their behalf, I came to say thank you. So I'm honored to be here. Thank you very much. Thank you. And you know, it's kind of funny, as the part of the incredible success of the film and the book, The Pursuit of Happiness, people ask me many of the same questions all over the world. And the first question I always get is, why do you insist on spelling happiness with a Y? Guy walks up to me on the street one day and says, well, you know you spell happiness wrong. We left that Y in the spelling of happiness to make us all mindful that it is you and your responsibility, you and your opportunity to create the life that you want for you and your family. That's why we spell happiness with a Y. And I'm not going to change that. I am not going to change that at all, okay? And I will submit to you that the film, The Pursuit of Happiness, is probably more relevant today than it was when it initially came out. And I say that because so many of us in America and all around the world have found ourselves in positions that we never thought would happen to us. This is where we've all had to make what I call a hard pivot. And a hard pivot being defined as something that you would have never chosen, but you still got to make it work. I get to check a lot of boxes in this hard pivot space. Abandoned child, foster care, mom in prison, never met his father, domestic violence survivor, sexual assault survivor, never went to college, veteran, homeless, single parent, entrepreneur, and Black. I get to check a lot of boxes. I get to check a lot of boxes. And I said Black last because I got this free. This is the original packaging here. And all those other boxes I checked, man, if there's ever a job posting where they say the ideal candidate must be able to stand and deliver in a hostile, volatile, frightening environment, I'm going to get that job. I'm going to be the boss of that. And I will submit to you, just think about this for a second. Chronologically, we're all living in the same space right now. We may be in different places geographically, politically, financially, emotionally, or spiritually, but chronologically, we're all living in the same space. It's something that I call atomic time. I'll come back to that concept in a little bit. I must stress I'm not talking about some apocalyptic end of days scenario, but rather the fact that we've all had to make major changes in all of our lives, none of which was our choosing, and we had to do it overnight. 3 things are certain about where we are right now. Number 1, we have all had our worlds rocked at the very same time. Number 2, none of us knows how long these new changes are going to be with us. And number 3, we are all going to come out of this with some new scar tissue. That is a fact. And I would say, it's playing out individually, institutionally, locally, and globally. I was asked last year by a major news reporter if change was coming to America, was change coming to the world. My position was, change is already here. Change has been on the way for some time now. If we just do a timeline real quick and just look back at the last 20 years, just go back 20 years. All the young people born in the year 2000, those young people were conceived in a storm. Think about that for a second. 1999, we were all freaked out about something called Y2K. Remember that? It turned out to be a non-event, but we were totally freaked out. The banks were going to fail. The computers were going to collapse. All government documents and records were going to be lost forever. Planes wouldn't be able to fly. Again, it turned out to be a non-event, but my point is the children born in the year 2000 were conceived in that storm. Let's fast forward on that timeline 1 year. Just as many of those babies were learning how to walk, what happens? 9/11. Fast forward 7 years, what happens? Global financial crises. Fast forward 12 years, what happens? Politics, polarization, and a pandemic. What's the one constant in that timeline? Change. Big, dramatic, frightening change. I will submit to you that change is here to stay. There's probably never been another generation recently of Americans better prepared to embrace, create, or demand change than this generation coming up right now. Change is in their DNA. I'll tell you another place that I see change that gives me tremendous hope for the future. Prior to the pandemic, I started this effort because I wanted to do something. I saw some things that were concerning me, specifically around young people, and I couldn't just keep shaking my head saying that's messed up. Okay? You got to do something. Sometimes you got to do something. What can you do? So I said, fine, I come up with this idea. I'm going to do a tour that's going to have me speak at 100 high schools all across America. I thought that was a big idea. No, hold up a second. I thought that was a big idea. 100 high schools. So I got a team of people that work with me, and their job is to make sure that I use my time in the most efficient manner possible. So they came up with what they thought was this great plan. Okay, Chris, here's what you're going to do. You're going to go to the East Coast. You're going to do 10 schools each in 10 cities. You're going to go to New York, Boston, Baltimore, Philadelphia, and Washington, D.C. Or if you want to, you can break it up and then go out to the West Coast and do San Francisco, Los Angeles, Sacramento, L.A. And I said, no, that's not what I want to do. I was born and raised in the Midwest. And that's a part of the world that folks on those coasts call flyover country. And I said, no, that's not what I want to do. So as a result of that, I've been to some places I bet nobody in this room has ever even heard of. I'm talking Fitchburg, Massachusetts, Mentor, Ohio, Fairmont, Minnesota. Before this thing is over, I'm going to sing that old Johnny Cash tune. I've been everywhere. Man, we blew through that number real quick. And then COVID hit. So now, whoa, how are you going to do it now? You blew through the number. You did what you said you were going to do. But that doesn't mean you even began to address the issues. You didn't even put a dent in it. So in 2020, we blew through the number. 2021 is where we raised the bar. We're in the process now of doing this tour that's going to have me speak virtually at 1,000 schools all across America. 1,000 schools. And let me tell you something. I tried to avoid this, okay? I wanted to do middle schools and high schools. I can talk to those people. I'm comfortable. I can deal with them, right? But some folks in education insisted, you got to include elementary schools in this. Man, those people scare me to death. You know what? Those people scare me to death. You know why, sir? Because they will ask you big people's questions in little people's bodies. Right? And this is where being a grandfather comes in handy, because now you got this filter. You can put stuff through that 7 and 8-year-old filter. You can't talk to an 8-year-old like you can a 16-year-old. And just a little example, a couple weeks ago, we're on a call. 400 kids, Los Angeles, California. And a little boy asked me a question. He said, Mr. Gardner, when you were a little boy, were you ever afraid to go home? Now, what do you say to that? He didn't just ask you that question out of some general curiosity. He asked you that question for a reason. And the truth of the matter is, and I'm sure the folks at the Salvation Army will back me up on this, due to the pandemic and quarantines and lockdown, child abuse and domestic violence numbers have skyrocketed. That little boy asked me that question for a reason, sir. And we had to have a very honest discussion about it. Right there, 400 kids, me, the principal. The good thing was, I knew what to tell them. This is where you've got to be bold. You've got to be bold enough to let someone know that you need help. The really good thing about it was, turns out the regional superintendent was on that call. He heard that young man's question, and now we know we need to take a little bit closer look at this young man's environment and get him some help. So we're doing this tour. going all around the world, all around the country. And let me tell you something. This is probably the most important thing that I've ever done in my life. This is not about do good, feel good. We are the world. This is about job readiness and workforce preparation and making an alternative investment in human capital. That's what this is all about. I'm doing it all through my foundation. And when you, young lady, get a copy of my new book, I should make you buy it. When you get a copy of that new book, let me tell you something. One of the things that I share with young people when I'm with them, basically, I talk about the 3 most important decisions I ever made in my life, all of which I made at their age or younger. A lot of young folks are trying to and having to make some major decisions in their lives right now. I share with them. The first and most important decision I've ever made in my life, I made it as a 5-year-old boy. Growing up without a father and in a situation where on a daily basis we never knew what might happen that day. And having a man look at you and say to you, I ain't your daddy. You ain't got no daddy. Sometimes he put a 12-gauge shotgun right here. When you grow up in that kind of environment, you could do one or two things. You could perpetuate it or you could choose to go the other way. I chose to go the other way. And the most important decision I've ever made in my life, I made it at 5 years old. That decision was, when I grow up, become a man, and have children, my children are going to know who their father is. That singularly is the most important decision that I've ever made in my life, because that decision, sir, didn't just change my life. That changed the lives of my yet to have been born children and my grandchild. That decision had generational impact. Because when I made the decision that I was going to break that one link in that chain of cycles that had plagued my family, all of the other associated links were instantly shattered, including child abuse, domestic violence, alcoholism, illiteracy, powerlessness, and generational poverty. Let me say that another way. I made the decision that if I had to sleep in a subway train station with my child tied on my back as a 28-year-old man, I made that decision as a 5-year-old boy. And just an aside for any movie buffs in the house, in the film you saw Jaden Smith play my son as a 5-year-old. In reality, at this point in our journey, my son was 14 months old. He was still in diapers. That changes everything. And that, folks, right there, is that not just the most beautiful little chocolate baby boy in the world? Huh? Wait. But let's make sure we're clear on that. That is not my son, man. That is me. Just so we're clear on that. That is me 66 years ago. And every time I look at that picture, it just dawns on me, you know what? The only person I could be looking at to make me smile like that is her. My mother, Betty Jean. Man, those eyes and that smile could either melt your heart or turn you into a pillar of salt. I had both experiences. Sony spent $100 million on marketing that film. And every place that Will Smith and I went all around the world, I talked about my mother. The wit, the wisdom, the lessons of love that she shared with me made everything else I've ever done in my life possible. Whenever I am asked, whatever made you think that you could do or accomplish half of the things that you have in your life, I can hear my mother's voice. I can hear mama say, son, I've had to do so much with so little for so long, I could do anything with nothing. And that wasn't just something catchy to say. I saw her do it. The film has also been referred to as the ultimate rags to riches story, but for me, it was never about money. For me, It was a love story about a man who was committed to giving his child something that he never had, a father. That's priceless. That ain't got nothing to do with money. Also, when I'm with young people, I share with them the greatest gift that I ever got in my life, which was permission to dream. I had one of those old-fashioned mothers who told me every day, son, you could do or be anything. And I believed it. It's very important that I also share with you what she did not say. She did not say that you could have anything. She did not say that you could buy anything. She did not say that you're guaranteed, assured, owed, or entitled to anything. She said that you could do or be anything. And for me, man, that was an even bigger statement, sir. Because if you could do or be anything, Mr. Borden, all this other stuff will come. My mother saying to me every day, son, you could do or be anything. That was permission to dream. And it's always just kind of amazed me. How did she know to say these things to me? My mom was born in Little Rock, Arkansas, raised deep in the heart of Louisiana, the daughter of a sharecropper, 1930s, 1940s. Those were not the good old days by any stretch of the imagination. How did she know to say these things to me? But I believed it. And I had that permission amplified for me one time, and it wound up being reflected in this scene in the film.
Hey, don't ever let somebody tell you you can't do something. Not even me. All right?
All right.
You got a dream, you got to protect it. People can't do something themselves. They want to tell you you can't do it. You want something, go get it. Period. Let's go.
Let me tell you just a little aside on that little piece of film right there. That almost did not happen. In the original screenplay, when they're on the basketball court, and that little boy throws up the ball and says, I'm going pro, the father says, forget it. That'll never happen. You can't do that. I couldn't do it, so that means that you couldn't do it. I waited till we were going to film that scene that day, and I went up to Will Smith and I said, you can't say that to that little boy, because that's not what my mother told me. She said you could do or be anything. We had a very heated discussion. Me, Will Smith, our director, Gabriel Muccino, and one of the producers. The producer's position was, well, the father's got to keep it real with the kid. My position was, man, you live in Hollywood. What you know about keeping it real? Hey, and you see how that worked out, right? But that whole idea of doing and being anything, I had that amplified for me one time. I'll never forget, as a young man, I heard Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. speak one night. As a matter of fact, it was the last speech he ever gave in his life. He was assassinated the very next day. He was speaking to a group of municipal employees, garbage men, down in Memphis, Tennessee. And this message to those men that night was, whatever you're going to do with your life, you should seek to become the best at it. I believe his exact words were, if you're going to be a garbage man, you should seek to become the best garbage man and sweep streets like Shakespeare wrote poetry. And right there, ma'am, I made the second most important decision I ever made in my life. That decision was, I'm going to become world class at whatever I do with my life. Not good at it, not pretty good at it, but world class at it. And let's define world class and keep it simple. Someplace right now, whatever business or industry that you're in, there's a conversation going on right now, and the question has come up. Who is the best in the business? Somebody ought to say your name if you're world class. Same conversation, same question. Who's the best in the business? If nobody says your name, then you got work to do. Same conversation, same question. Who's the best in the business? If nobody says your name and you don't care, get out of the business. You'll never be any good. But the ultimate validation in that scenario, when that question comes up, who's the best in the business? The ultimate validation is when someone who does not like you says your name. When the people who will not take your phone calls are now hoping that you'll return their calls. When the folks who would not hire you yesterday cannot afford you today. That's the good part. That's when you'll know. You know when I knew? I don't. But I'm working on it every single day. And I'm stressing to young people all across this country, you could never be too good. You could never be too good because somebody's coming up behind you that's a little bit better. And not just a little bit better, a little bit hungrier. And I share with them. And I learned something about talking with young people. It always helps if you show them a picture instead of just saying a whole bunch of words. This is what world class could look like. Check this out. Man, that's what world class could look like. And let me tell you something. Every time I see that picture of that helicopter making that shot, I keep waiting for him to miss it. He makes it every single time. I did some additional research and find out that helicopter pilot, that was not a he, that was a she. That's what world class could look like, okay? And speaking of world class, I am so proud of this young lady. This young lady right here. This young lady, oh my God, not him. How they? Guys, are we missing a slide? Go back and find that female fighter pilot for me, please. You got it render anywhere? Nah, don't worry about that. Let's keep it rolling. But my Navy, and I got to come back to that comment in a second. I spent some of the best years of my life at the United States Navy. Wouldn't trade it for nothing in the world. But last year, we had a young African-American female become the first fighter pilot in the history of the U.S. Navy. And that's a big deal. That's a big deal, Bo. Ain't no playing around with that. That's a big deal. I had to give her a shout out on social media and just basically say, think about this for a second. Everything Tom Cruise pretended to do in that film, Top Gun, she does it for real every day. You know, I had somebody on social media come back and call me a racist. Man, I've been called a whole bunch of things in my life. I ain't never been called a racist. That was kind of funny to me. But as a young man, and having this commitment to becoming world class at something and being given permission to dream, I knew the one piece I was missing. I had to have a plan A. A dream without a plan is worthless. A dream with a plan A is priceless. I had to have a plan A. And it made me think back on this scene of this part of this movie we shot with Will Smith. The very first day, we're shooting the scene, and Will Smith's got the job. He's coming down the stairs, and he told me from the very beginning, playing you is going to be harder than playing Muhammad Ali. His point was everybody knows Ali. Everybody knows the story. Everybody knows what happened. They know how Ali reacted. Nobody knows you. So for 7 years of filming, while everybody else was watching him, he was watching me. This guy had me down to the point that he has to sign my name to a contract in the film, signs an exact replica of my signature. Man, if I ever have a problem with identity theft, I know who I'm looking for. Okay? He had a plan A. And the best plan A's all have something that I call the C5 complex. Your plan A must be clear, concise, compelling, consistent, and committed. You got to have a plan A. And when you're talking about doing something that you're truly passionate about, there is no plan B. There is no plan B. You've got to have a plan A. So when I'm talking with young people and I'm trying to get this concept across to them, I use a few examples that maybe they're familiar with. Some names they know. Michael Jordan. Okay. Michael Jordan's got 6 NBA championship rings because he was committed to plan A, not plan B. Oprah Winfrey became the queen of all media because she was committed to plan A, not plan B. Politics aside, but Barack Obama served 2 terms as president of the United States because he was committed to plan A, not plan B. And I get the children to agree with me. Plan B sucks. Come on, say it like you mean it one time. Plan B sucks. If plan B was any good, sir, it'd be plan A. Plan B distracts from plan A. Ultimate example, I don't have a picture, I don't need one. Ultimate example, commitment to plan A. All I got to say is 3 words. David versus Goliath. That was plan A. 1 shot, that was plan A, sir. And when you put it to them like that, they get that. So I share with them the 3 most important decisions I ever made in my life. And I also talk with them about, you got to consider some other options and opportunities right now. We all know that 4-year college degree is probably not the golden ticket we used to think it was. Okay? That's not the golden ticket. Back up to the aircraft carrier for me. I want to make a point here. I'm also talking with young people about considering some other options, specifically trade schools and the U.S. military. Hold it right there. Met this young man down in Houston. The young man expressed to me how much he loved cooking. And one day he wanted to become a chef and open his own restaurant. That's a beautiful dream. And it can be done. But I showed him that picture and I asked him a question. Have you ever considered a career in the military? Man, he looked at me like I had 2 heads. So wait, think about it for a second. Every job that exists in the civilian world exists in the U.S. military. Think about it for a second. If you're a cook on that ship, that's the USS Abraham Lincoln. If I remember correctly, that's the largest aircraft carrier in the world, built by my friends at Huntington Ingalls. The point is, there are 4,000 sailors on that ship that must be fed 4 times a day. That is 16,000 meals a day, sir. And you say you want to be a cook? Then I asked him, let's say that ship is at sea for 6 months. Round it off, call it 180 days. 16,000 meals a day times 180 days. How many meals is that? You look smart. How many meals is that? Come on, put the calculator down. 16,000 meals a day times 180 days, that is 2,880,000 meals. Meaning you're not just going to get good at cooking, sir. You're going to get good at time management, asset allocation, and event planning. Skills, talent, and expertise are transferable. And everything that you learn, you can take it with you to pursue whatever it is that you're passionate about. I mentioned I spent some of the best years of my life in the United States Navy. And I wasn't just in the U.S. Navy, I was a U.S. Navy hospital corpsman. Now, the plan was to join the Navy and see the world. Now, anybody in here that's ever been in the military knows sometimes your orders can change, sir. And you don't have anything to say about it, do you, ma'am? I joined the Navy to see the world. They sent me to Camp Lejeune, Jacksonville, North Carolina, the largest Marine Corps base in the world. Some kind of a way, as a hospital corpsman, I became the base proctology specialist. I'm not going to talk a lot about that. Let's just say I started at the bottom. Which ultimately prepared me for my career on Wall Street. Skills, talent, and expertise are transferable. If you can deal with those over here, you can deal with these up here in New York. Man, I wouldn't trade my time in the U.S. Navy for nothing in the world. And took everything I learned with me. And I didn't know it, but apparently some folks were watching. Every year, the United States Navy Memorial Foundation gives out an award to men and women who served and took everything that they learned with them and applied it to the rest of their lives. Some of the previous recipients of that award include Arnold Palmer, probably the greatest golfer to ever play the game, astronaut and Senator John Glenn, and President John F. Kennedy. But that one right there, that was mine. That one right there is mine. Man, I'm so proud of that thing. I keep moving it around my house. I want to make sure that's the first thing you see when you come in my house. My fiance came up with a great idea. She said, if you just want to make sure everybody sees it, let's just get a smaller house. That is not happening. Trust me. I always stress to young people, you know what? You got to consider all your options right now. You saw how things didn't necessarily work out like your big brother or sisters thought they were going to. Let's do another timeline. That film, The Pursuit of Happiness, came out December of 2006. January 2007, economists started asking, is the U.S. economy going into a recession? Spring of 2008 is officially acknowledged as the beginning of the global financial crisis. Think about that for a second. All the young people, or too many of them, who went away to college in 2008 saying, yes, we can, they came out 4 years later saying, what the? What? I did everything I was told I had to do. I went to school. I got good grades. I graduated, but now the world has changed so much. I got little to no opportunity to be in the business or industry I want to be in. I got $100,000 in student loan debt, and now I got to move back in the house with mom and dad if mom and dad haven't lost the house. The young people I'm talking to today, sir, were their younger brothers and sisters. And they were watching. And they saw. I got to think about things a little bit differently. I also share with young people the whole idea of making these hard pivots. Let me back up for 1 second. Another reason I'm doing what I'm doing right now. Let me interpret that slide for you. Some folks will say, Chris, all the stuff you do in the schools, yeah, that's great, but yeah, what's that got to do with me and my business? One of the other things I've been doing with my time recently is working with the United States Navy. We got a major issue in our military, folks, called recruiting and retention of talent. Let me break that down. What that slide is telling us is if you start off with a universe of 25 million young people in our country between the ages of 18 and 24, prime time to enter the U.S. military, that number gets cut in half on academics alone, right off the bat. The next cut is just as brutal. Criminal records, drug use, obesity, facial tattoos, and extreme body piercing. That number gets cut pretty much in half again, ma'am. What's all that got to do with you and your business? Everything. Because we're all fishing from the same pool of talent. There's not a separate pool of talent for corporate America, entrepreneurs, or the military. We're fishing from the same pool of talent. That's what this has got to do with you and your business and you and your community. I also share with young people this one photo, and I got to tell you something. Once in a while, you get to have your own personal learning moment. I shared that photo the first couple of times, sir, and I asked young people all across this country, anybody know what that picture is? Nobody knew. That's the gravesite of President John F. Kennedy at Arlington National Cemetery. Now, I don't go around talking to anybody about politics. I keep all that to myself. But let me tell you something. If I had anything to say about it, everybody in this country would once a year make an annual trip to Arlington. And you go walk through there. And you go think about all the men and women who are laying there. And you could also think about the slaves who dug the first graves. And if you think about it and walk on that ground, maybe some of this other stuff wouldn't be so important all of a sudden. But sir, I had to take it as a teachable moment for me. You got to be patient with these young folks. That includes me. And that's why I've taken my newest job. I am now officially the CEO of happiness, and I love my job. I love my job. It's the last job I'm ever going to have in my life. What does it mean as CEO of happiness? That means simply, I got one ambition. I want to help change the trajectory of young people's lives. I'm working with you, sir. I'm working with you, ma'am. You might not see me, but I'm on the other side of this field, and we're trying to do the same thing. We're trying to change the trajectory of people's lives all across America. And ain't gonna be no parades for us. We don't need a parade. We just gonna keep doing our work every day. And one day, a young man or a young woman is gonna stand up someplace and say, you know what? I'm standing right here today because some folks at the Salvation Army showed me something. They opened the door for me. They fed me and my family. And none of that would be possible without organizations like the Salvation Army. That's why when I got this invitation, I've turned down a few the last 15 months. I did them all virtually. But when the Salvation Army calls you, you come. So thank you again, ma'am, for having me. It's been absolutely the highest honor. I share with young people again. Let's talk about what can be done. You got enough other folks telling you what can't be. That's why I don't even turn on the television anymore. I had a unique experience during the quarantine, the lockdown, the politics, and all this other stuff. I decided I've been in my house so long and too long, I'm gonna get the whole house painted. Now, what happens when you paint the house? You gotta take all the stuff out the room. That also means you gotta take all the televisions off the walls. Man, you know, for 3 months, I didn't even know the election was over. I still don't have a television. Somebody called me the other day, hey, did you see? No. I did not see, and I'm not trying to see. I'm trying to see the future. And when I talk to people, I tell them, in America, the future is bright because our bench is deep. We got some young folks coming up right now that give me tremendous excitement about the future. And I've been challenged by some adults who've asked me, well, what are the odds of you ever happening again? I can't answer that question because I'm not focused on the odds. I'm focused on the evens, as in even though, even if, even when, even where, even you, even me. This has been done before. And before I leave tonight, I just want to share one thing with you. There's a voice that's so important to me, a voice we probably all could have benefited from hearing the last little bit, the voice of my dear friend, Dr. Maya Angelou. And I'll never forget her and I having our last conversation. I didn't know it was our last conversation. She did, I didn't. We were talking about struggle, and I will never forget her saying to me, we have the people for this mountain. And we must all be mindful that there are folks who came before us, who came up a steeper side of this mountain, carrying a bigger and heavier load with little to no opportunity, but they kept going forward, onward, and upward. And still I rise. This has been done before, but now it's our turn. And when I'm with young people, I have to say it differently. And I share with them a conversation I had with my favorite rapper, the notorious B.I.G. We were once speaking about struggle, about progress. And out of nowhere, Biggie Smalls says to me, we got to go forward. Through the fire, through the pain, baby steps in the rain, while all about you are being the same, be the player, not the game. Thank you, Tulsa. It's been my highest honor. Good night. God bless America. Thank you so much. Thank you, sir. I felt you all the way up here, brother. It's a big virtual hug for you. Tulsa, thank you and God bless.
That was truly incredible, truly inspirational, and I think a message all of us needed to hear. As Chris mentioned, as all of us have talked about tonight and have felt over the last year, the change is happening, the change is now. Our world did change. Our world did get flipped upside down. Some of you may not have been as challenged as others. Some people did end up on the streets for the very first time or found themselves back on the streets after working so hard to get back on their feet. And I think just hearing from Chris is something we all needed. I often say to my family, my husband and daughter are with me here tonight, focus on what you can control. Try to stay positive. The power of positivity. Truly, if you change your perspective, you can change your life. And that's how Chris's life has become what it is today. He's the CEO of happiness. Who wouldn't want that job? And it's his perspective and that laugh that's so infectious that lifted us all tonight. So thank you, Chris. You are exactly what we needed here tonight. And to all of you, I just want to say a special thank you on behalf of the Salvation Army for spending your evening with us, for giving so generously, knowing that the needs will be met in the community, the needs of thousands of people, thanks to people like you. I'm Shay Rossi with Fox 23 News. It's been my honor to be with you tonight. I'm going to buy that book. I still want you to autograph it for free, though. I'll buy it. You can, put the money toward your foundation. I would love to do that. And thank you so much. Until next year's William Booth Society Gala, good night and God bless. Just a quick announcement. We do have a little souvenir glass for you on the table. Sorry, I was just asked to make a quick announcement. Be sure to take the glass with you on your table that has the Salvation Army bookmark in there. We'd love for you to take that home so you can remember tonight. Thanks so much.